Welcome back to Friend or Foe, the series where I analyze characters from our favorite games and figure out if they would be good to hang out with or whether you might want to avoid them at the next party. I'm Josh Bearheart Hawk, and in this episode we're getting to know Ben from Telltale Games' The Walking Dead Season 1. As always, I've created a playlist for this series, so you can easily keep up with it and watch every episode available anytime. I'll link that in the description down below. Ben Paul was a student at Stone Mountain High School in Stone Mountain, Georgia, prior to the outbreak. As a member of the school band, he was on a trip to support his team in the state football playoffs when everything went down. And soon, he found himself trapped with dozens of other students in a small high school gymnasium as the world fell apart. The group was able to survive for a while in the gym, but at some point, one of the girls that was with them ended her own life and wound up reanimating while everyone was asleep. The next morning, they found most of the girls dead or dying and concluded that it wasn't safe to stay there any longer. It was also this incident that told them someone didn't need to be bitten in order to turn. For a little while, Ben camped with his remaining classmates and one of their teachers, at least until bandits raided their camp. Ben, along with his friend Travis and their teacher Mr. Parker, fled the raid and ran until Mr. Parker stepped into a bear trap. The teacher's screams drew what at first appeared to be a couple of bandits to them, but before long it became clear that the men were there to help rather than harm. Another man showed up to help shortly thereafter, but try as they might, they were unable to free Mr. Parker. As a horde of zombies closed in, the men insisted they needed to flee the area. But Travis wasn't willing to go without their teacher, and he wound up being shot while trying to wrestle a gun from one of the men. All Ben could do was look on in horror as he realized his teacher was doomed and one of his close friends was badly hurt. One of the strangers grabbed Travis, and Ben followed them back to their camp, hoping all the way that Travis would be okay. Arriving at the camp, Ben would find himself in the middle of a heated argument, where a very angry woman, who he thought might be the leader, was screaming at the men who'd rescued him. She's angry that they brought him and Travis back, but before things get too out of hand, a little girl pulls him off to the side and the rest of the group settled down. Though there weren't any formal introductions, he gathered that the angry woman was named Lily. The men that rescued him were Mark, Kenny, and Lee. It's clear there's a lot of animosity among the group, but all he's worried about at first is whether or not Travis will survive. Lee tells him that Katja, the woman who's working on Travis, is going to do her best. But before long, a scream rings out and it becomes clear that Travis didn't make it. Ben finds it a bit odd that she didn't put a knife in Travis's head when he died, but the reason for that error turns out to be that they didn't know people would come back without a bite. The group seems completely floored by the news as Ben relays it, but a couple of men at the gate promising food and safety at their farm brings the conversation to a halt. A small group, including Ben, Lee, Mark, and one of the other members named Doug, escorts the brothers to their farm to see if it really is as good as they say. As they walk, they talk about the situation at the motor inn and what the farm is like, and Ben lets everyone know that he used to help out on a goat farm as a kid. So much has changed for him, even in just the past few hours, and he wants this new group to know that he can pull his weight. The sound of arguing from nearby brings the stroll through the woods to a halt. A couple of men that Ben recognizes as part of the group that raided his camp are fighting about something. As the group watches from behind a small hill, one of the bandits shoots the other before walking off, and they decide they should probably hurry up and get to the safety of the farm. When they finally arrive, it appears to be everything the brothers promised. There is an electric fence around the perimeter, and a cheery older woman comes out of the house with a basket full of freshly baked biscuits. Ben and Doug wind up making their way back to the motor inn to let everyone know that the farm is safe, eating the biscuits on the way, and choosing to wait there and keep an eye on things so everyone else can get a good meal as well. After a few hours, Doug begins to worry that something might be wrong. The group hasn't returned or sent anyone back to let the pair know what's going on, and it's getting dark and stormy. He and Ben decide to make their way back to the farm to check on things, and they find the place a lot quieter than they expect. One of the brothers, the smaller man, is sitting outside the barn talking to himself. As they watch, the other brother walks up and tells him he needs to go inside and kill all but one of the group. At this point, Ben and Doug know something is very wrong, and they begin working on a plan to help their friends. But before they can come up with something that might actually work, Kenny comes running out of the barn, making a beeline for the house. A couple minutes later, Lee comes out as well, and Doug manages to get his attention using a laser pointer he'd grabbed from the drugstore. He tells them that the St. John's cut off Mark's legs and tried to feed them to the group before imprisoning them all. Kenny has gone looking for Katja and Duck, who were being held somewhere else. Larry is dead, and Lily and Clementine are in the barn. Lee asks Ben and Doug to try to find a way around the house, hoping to cover all the angles and not cause a panic, and the pair set off. They're trying to figure out the best approach when a gunshot rings out. From the fence line, they can see that Kenny is on the ground, with Katja yelling for help next to him. Lee is standing opposite one of the brothers, who appears to be holding Duck at gunpoint and yelling. Thinking quickly, Doug uses his laser pointer to blind the brother, and Lee is able to swoop in and free Duck. Lee and the brother fight until Lily steps in and shoots the man, saving Lee at the last minute. As they leave the farm, they can hear the yells of the brother as zombies close in and take over. At this point, Ben is starting to wonder if this group is going to hold on for very long, as their only shot at food fades away. He's only been with them a few hours, and they don't seem to like each other, or him, very much, and they don't have a lot of supplies. As if to answer his concerns, they come across an abandoned vehicle full of supplies on the way back to the motor inn. Though he is hesitant to take anything, Ben follows the lead of most of the rest of the group and helps carry the supplies back to his new home. Those supplies don't last very long though, and it's only a matter of time before they're running low on food once more. But the food and supply situation isn't really at the forefront of Ben's mind. At some point, he was confronted by some of the bandits that had raided his camp before. They tell him that they have one of his friends, and they threaten to raid the new camp he's in if he doesn't give them something to keep them happy. Desperate, Ben starts stealing medicine, altering the count that Lily's been keeping when no one's looking, and leaving a stash for the bandits every couple of days. After a while, he realizes they were lying about having his friend, but by then he's in too deep. If he tells the group what he's been doing, they will kick him out for sure, maybe even leaving him behind as they escape the motor inn. But his crime catches up to him when he finds out Lily suspects someone of stealing. She's asked Lee to look into it, and he even questions Ben about a flashlight that was found broken in the trash. Things really get bad, though, when Lee finds the stash that was supposed to be the next payment to the bandits, causing them to attack the group. Chaos ensues, and they all barely make it out of the motor inn alive in the RV Kenny had been working on. But that isn't the end of it, as Lily starts throwing around accusations, pointing a finger at Ben as she tries to find the person she's calling a traitor. When Kenny hits a zombie with the RV, they all climb out and tensions rise as Lily starts berating Ben and telling him to confess. He's not sure if she really knows it was him or if she's just yelling because she never liked him. Just as Kenny finishes removing the zombie from under the RV, Ben feels a tug at his jacket and he's yanked to the right as a gunshot rings out. Doug pulled him away as Lily was aiming to shoot. He's checking himself for a gunshot wound as he realizes that Doug isn't moving. The bullet meant for Ben wound up in Doug instead. Time seems to come to a stop, and the next couple of minutes are a blur as Lee and Kenny decide Lily is to be left behind. Doug is dead, and in a way, Ben blames himself. If only he'd told her it was him, maybe Doug would still be alive. But it's too late for that, and everyone except Lily climbs back into the RV. As they leave her behind, Ben sits at the table in the back and thinks about how bad things have gone. What could he have done differently? Things only get worse when they wind up stopping the RV at a blocked railroad crossing. Ben is excited to see a train, but disappointed when he's asked to sit with Katja, Duck, and Clementine as Lee and Kenny work on getting the engine running. To make matters worse, it turns out Duck was bitten in the escape from the motor inn, and things are not looking good for him. But he's trying to put any bad thoughts out of his mind. Duck could wind up being okay. Katja seems to think it's possible he'll recover, and she seems pretty smart about that kind of stuff. While they're waiting for Kenny and Lee to get the train moving, a man wanders over and introduces himself as Chuck. He's a homeless guy that seems pretty nice, and he even has some candy for Ben and Clementine. It's not long before the train is ready and everyone climbs on board. They're up to speed and rolling along for a bit, but it's obvious things aren't going well when Katja calls Lee over and asks him to get Kenny to stop the train so they can deal with Duck. Kenny and Katja take their son off into the woods to tell him goodbye, and an unexpected gunshot calls Lee to join them. They're gone for a while, with a second gunshot coming a few minutes after Lee ran off, and only Kenny and Lee return. Kenny is in tears, and Lee looks like he's seen a ghost. As they get the train moving again, Ben learns that the first gunshot was Katja shooting herself, and the second was Lee ending Duck's life. It's all too much, and the guilt is now tearing Ben apart. He has to tell someone. As Lee is walking back from talking to Kenny, Ben admits that he's the one responsible for what happened with the bandits. Lee's reaction startles him, but just saying it out loud helps him a little. By the time they reach Savannah, Ben's finding it easier to focus on other things. He wants to make up for what he did, but he isn't sure how. As they're walking down the street, a bell in a nearby tower starts ringing, and within minutes they're surrounded by zombies. Escaping into the backyard of a nearby house, they manage to make their way inside the building and to relative safety. After making sure the house is clear, with Kenny and Lee handling a child zombie in the attic and Lee laying the boy to rest in the backyard, Kenny and Lee head out to find a boat. They're worried someone is stalking the group, and they want to get as far away from land as possible. Kenny returns a couple hours later with Clementine, who'd snuck out to follow Lee, and a new girl named Molly. They were separated from Lee, who went down into the sewers, and it's a couple more hours before he makes his way back, accompanied by an older man named Vernon. Through it all, they learn that there are no boats left in Savannah, and no one knows what to do next. Thankfully, Clementine finds a boat in the shed behind the house, and Ben and Kenny get to work figuring out if it'll float. As it happens, the boat is in good shape. The only thing it needs is a battery and some gas. But those things won't be easy to come by. The only place that might have them is a community known as Crawford, and it sounds like they aren't exactly going to be very helpful. The group hatches a plan to sneak in under the cover of darkness and steal the supplies. But as they emerge from the sewers below Crawford, they find out the place has fallen and there are zombies everywhere instead of people. Ben and Clementine are left in the classroom as everyone else goes for the supplies. Ben works to get the door labeled Armory open, but he's having a lot of trouble with it. Kenny winds up helping him after returning from his fuel run, but even with the two of them, it isn't budging. And working so closely with Kenny has brought back the guilt Ben feels for his actions at the motor inn, and reminds him how it's his fault that Katja, Duck, and Doug are all dead. He's trying to hold it in, to stay strong for the group, but he isn't sure how much more he can take. When Kenny asks him to go find something that might help with the door, he inadvertently pushes himself over the ledge. The only thing he can find is a hatchet that Lee usually carries, lodged in the door leading out of the school. He removes it as it doesn't seem to be serving a purpose. But seconds later, he finds out why it was there as a horde of zombies comes bursting through and into the hallway. And now the clock is ticking as Ben, Lee, Molly, and Clementine race back to the classroom. They get inside just in time, but there's no way to barricade the door, and now they are trapped unless someone can get the armory open. And now, the weight of his actions really hits Ben as he realizes that he's made yet another mistake that's going to get people killed. They're all going to die in that room, and he can't let it end without coming clean. Lee tries to stop him, but he can't hold back.
I'm so sorry, man. It's been me all along, putting all of us in danger. Katya and Duck, it was all me. It was all me.
Just as he finishes, the door to the armory busts open, and Kenny realizes what Ben just admitted to. Kenny rushes at him, intent on killing him, while Lee and the others hold him back. After a couple of minutes, Kenny calms down enough to speak, and he reveals that the boat isn't big enough for everyone. He calls for a vote on whether to leave Ben behind. But before they can settle anything, the classroom door is finally breached, and zombies come pouring in. The only way out is up through the armory, and the group makes their way to the top of what turns out to be a bell tower. Ben and Lee are the last to leave, but a zombie hanging from the bell grabs Ben before they can get out. Lee shoots the thing, but Ben is pulled through the railing anyway and nearly falls to his death. Lee grabs him at the last second, but he isn't even sure he wants to live. He feels like he's been nothing but a drain on the group. His actions have gotten people killed, and he's hurt Kenny more than anyone else. He begs Lee just to let him go, but Lee won't give up on him. As Lee tightens his grip and pulls, Ben realizes he doesn't want to die as much as he thought he did. And even after all he's done, someone still wants him to be around. They escape the bell tower and get back to the house with everything they need for the boat. But even as things are starting to look up, there's a problem. Clementine has gone missing, likely taken by Vernon and his group. To make matters worse, Lee is bitten and he might not have much time left. Clementine was one of the only people who'd been good to Ben the whole time. From the moment she tried to make him feel better about Travis by showing him her drawings, to standing up for him when everyone else wanted to vote him off the boat. He just has to help Lee find her. They go down to where Vernon's group had been staying, but no one is there. A voice on the walkie-talkie admits to have taken her, but he says that he isn't Vernon, and now they aren't sure where to look. As if that wasn't enough, Lee collapses as they're looking for a way out of the room that they're in. They wind up cutting off Lee's bitten arm after he wakes up, and they eventually find a way out via an elevator shaft. Getting to the roof of the hospital, they look out over the city to see hundreds of zombies filling the street. There seems to be no way out. But there's always a way out if you try hard enough, and after Lee nearly dies making his way over to ring a bell, they are able to climb down a fire escape and make their way back to the house. It turns out that leaving wasn't the best idea though, as while Vernon didn't steal Clem, he did take their boat. Kenny is irate, and he goes off on Ben before Ben finally finds his voice.
We got enough problems. Fuck you, Kenny! I am so sorry about Katya and Duck. I am! And I know I fucked up. But stop pushing me around and stop wishing I was dead! No! You know how they died. You've said goodbye. I never got to see my family, my parents, my little sister. Do you get that? Your family is gone, but at least you had them to lose. I never made it home. They could be alive or dead or walkers or worse, and I don't know. So give me a fucking break!
The message seems to finally get across to Kenny, but before he can apologize, zombies make their way into the backyard and eventually the house as the group finds themselves going to the second floor and finally into the attic. As they're trying to figure out what to do, Clementine's voice comes over the radio to let them know she's alive and being held at the Marsh house. That information wouldn't be too helpful without a way out though, and thankfully they manage to find one when Lee throws a bust at a wall, revealing a weakness that allows them to break through and escape into the house next door. Things are starting to look up as they realize they can jump from the small balcony attached to the room that they escaped into onto the roof of the next building over and make their way on the rooftops to where Clem is being held. But the balcony isn't as sturdy as it looks. Ben is the last one to try and jump across, but the structure gives way and he winds up plummeting into the alleyway below. He's lying there, trying to get up as Kenny and Lee come out of nowhere to help him. He isn't sure what's going on, but the look on their faces isn't good, and as he looks down, he sees a pole coming out of his chest. Kenny and Lee try to pull him up, but it's no use. The only thing he can think of is how scared he is of becoming one of the things they've been running from for so long. He can't even feel the pain from his injuries, but he knows that he doesn't want to become one of them. Things are starting to grow dark, and the last thing he sees is zombies closing in as Kenny points a gun at him and pulls the trigger. So that's Ben's story. But would he be someone that you'd want to keep around? Would he be a friend or a foe? Now, there is an ending for Ben where Lee drops him in the bell tower. As a pragmatist in the Philosophy and Ethics series, I argue that dropping him would be the right thing in the moment for the group. In the friend or foe video for Lee, however, I argue that Lee wouldn't do that, opting to save him as that would be more in line with who Lee is. For Ben's sake, saving him is absolutely the right thing. Ben is about 17 years old at the time of the outbreak. He's accident prone and doesn't exactly think things through, which is pretty on par for most 17-year-olds. From a story writing standpoint, I would have preferred to see a chance to really get to know him and have him stick around even into Season 2. Ben deserved more of a redemption arc than he got, and I think that having the option to have Clementine go with Ben, or Krista and Omid, or even into a group that included all of them together, would have been better than what we got. As a person, Ben has good intentions despite his mistakes. Sure, he could have told Lee or someone else that the bandits were blackmailing him. He could have spoken up when Lily was losing her mind on him. But as a teenager, with what appears to be low confidence already, he acted as you might expect. He thought he was doing the right thing by giving the bandits supplies, and he handled the guilt of what happened to Doug, or Carly, and Katja and Duck better than I think most teenagers would. I don't know that I would have done any better at that age. For all of those reasons, I have to label Ben as a friend. In this series, my intention is to put us in the shoes of the characters and treat them as real people. When you're looking at someone else's choices, it's easy to judge based on your own life experience and decide whether their actions make sense through your lens. Empathy is about understanding the actions of others through their life experiences, putting ourselves in their place and being able to figure out why they acted in a specific way, even when we might not always agree with that action. Looking at Ben, it's easy to say that he should have done things differently, but you have to remember something about him. He'll never get to know what it feels like to dance with a date at the prom, or attend his first college class. He'll never have a career or get married, buy a house, or do any of the other things that we think of as a normal life. Those are all things that would be weighing on his mind alongside wondering what happened to his family, how to survive when the dead are rising and bandits are waiting to strike from the shadows. The world after the outbreak upends everything for everyone, but being a young kid is especially hard because you know that you won't get to have what others who came before you got. The only thing that's left is to pick up the pieces and try to move forward with whatever time you get. But I want to know what you think of Ben Paul. Is he a friend, or do you think he's actually a foe? This is the third episode in this series, and so far we've seen some pretty interesting characters. But the next one just might take the cake. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out as we continue rolling along. If you want to see episodes early, or even get behind the scenes content and more, I've got channel memberships and a Patreon. Hitting the like button and leaving a comment is always appreciated as well. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
I'm Ben Paul. I keep wondering if I could have done something to help, you know? Some kind of, I don't know, something.
Did you ever come down here to Macon much?
I didn't have much reason to. My parents would let me take the car into the city on the weekend. But what's in Macon? It's kind of a waste of time compared to Atlanta.
I grew up in Macon.
Oh, I didn't mean to say it's crappy or anything. It's super nice. I mean, not now, but I bet it was. Push it.
Push it?
Why not?
Are you fucking serious?
Here, look. It's just the brakes.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
He gave us candy. Ben, too.
Are you gonna be able to step up?
I can do just as much as anyone else.
You came with me.
You didn't think I would? It's like you said, Clementine has been my biggest, well, only real fan. I'd be a big piece of crap if I didn't.
You still wanna die?
I'm more afraid of getting someone else killed.
I'll make sure that doesn't happen, as well as I can.
Thanks. Including me?
Getting bitten's not that bad.
Really?
No, it's a death sentence. It's horrible. But try not to worry about it.